The story begins with a young man called Suho texting with his mother. Suho, just like anyone his age, likes to hang out with his friends, and would be doing the same today. Distracted while walking, he accidentally bumps into a stranger and is scolded, so Suho apologizes, but inside he feels disgusted as he was already in a bad mood. Suho thinks that he's so sick and tired of people and wishes he could live somewhere without humans. Suddenly, there's a loud noise. Wondering what that was, he looks off into the distance, only to see lightning strike the city, destroying everything around it. But this was only the first. A second bolt hits a tall building, causing it to crumble. Suddenly, the whole sky is filled with bolts of lightning, destroying the city in a matter of seconds. It all happened too fast, and panic sets into the streets. Seeing that people are dying everywhere, all he can do is run. He tries to save himself by running as fast as he can, but suddenly, a truck is seconds away from hitting him. To his surprise, Suho wakes up in a grassy field by himself. Looking up, all he sees in the night sky are two moons and some creatures he's never seen before. In a completely different world, he tries to orient himself, but he doesn't know how he got there. He has so many questions but no answers. But before he could understand the situation, a bear jumps out of the brush roaring, only to be immediately attacked by a pack of wolves who swiftly defeat the bear. Suho, who sees this all happen from behind a rock, is scared by a young wolf who appears behind him. Scared out of his mind, Suho runs as fast as he can. He doesn't know where he'll end up, but he knows he has to run. Out of nowhere, he hears a voice that tells him that his constitution has increased by 1. This voice catches him off guard, which causes him to trip and fall to the ground. Suho, picking himself up, thinks that he heard something. Luckily, he landed in an area where he's surrounded by strange fruits. Realizing that he's also hungry, he wonders if the fruits were edible. He notices a bunch of ants also eating the fruit and decides that this was as safe as it's going to get. As he takes a bite out of the fruit, he hears a rustling in the grass and comes face to face with a giant snake who immediately lunges at Suho, only to be intercepted by another predator, a giant frog. The predator became the prey in a split second. Exhausted from almost losing his life twice, Suho passes out. 66 days pass in this remote place. A wolf pack is still chasing him, and he can't let his guard down because he doesn't know when they'll attack. But that's not the only danger. The entire forest is dangerous. A year passes by since he was stranded, and he snaps off an extra large banana from a tree. Catching this mid-air increases his strength by 1. He's barely surviving as an outcast. A wolf cub won't stop following him to a point where he'd miss it if it wasn't around. As he eats his banana, he feels something drip onto his back. When he turns his eyes, he sees a gorilla dashing towards him, leaping and smashing the branch Suho is sitting on. Suho quickly jumps off, swinging on the vine and dodging the gorilla's attack, only to watch the gorilla fall from the tree as it had smashed the branch Suho was sitting on. The gorilla, falling to the ground, half lands on the wolf cub, who's sent flying. The gorilla, slowly getting up, notices that there's a wolf injured with a stick in its hind leg. The wolf cub barks at the gorilla, but it's no match for the primate. It roars and swings, sending the wolf flying. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Suho from the vine swings and lands on the gorilla's back, piercing its eye with a sharpened bone. This causes the gorilla to scream in pain, reaching behind itself, grabbing Suho and throwing him, who tumbles and hits a tree. When Suho comes to his senses, the gorilla is furious, charging at him. This was all a flashback, and the doctor asks him why he tried to pick a fight with the gorilla if he knew he couldn't beat it. Suho tells him that he couldn't avoid a turf war. Sooner or later this was bound to happen, and wherever you go, there's always a ruler. Cutting back, the gorilla is completely ready to kill Suho, but to his surprise, a white wolf attacks the gorilla, saving him. The same pack of wolves who attacked the bear last year are now saving him, but as he watches the wolves attack the gorilla, he falls unconscious. But the wolves don't attack him because the pup he had saved was the heir to the pack. Another year passes, and those who were enemies have now become friends. Suho has joined the group of wolves, and they have accepted him like he was one of them. Stranded for 31 years, he's completely different from what he used to be. The once weak and cowardly boy has now turned into a fierce warrior, easily taking down large snakes. The turf wars between the other animals continue. He would go into battle together with the wolves, taking out prey after prey. 120 years go by, but Suho fails to find another human like him in this strange world. In the struggle for survival, he's made companions, and lost them as well. At a certain point, he gave up on counting. How was he still alive? The doctor, intrigued by the story of how he lived for over 500 years and became the king of wolves, asks him the most important question: how did he return? Suho then narrates the story on how he started a war on the gorillas over Moonlight Hill. The wolves, led by Suho, were ready to claim the biggest victory of their lives. As the battle began, the space around him started to bend, and as quickly as he got to this world, he was zapped back. On Earth, we see a party roaming in the abandoned streets, looking for something. Suddenly, their devices tell them that their dimensional energy reading is off the charts, and a man in a suit tells them to immediately send the coordinates to a portal management team. As the coordinates are sent, everyone starts to run away, calling for backup, because the portal starts to open. A young girl with a sword gets ready to take on anyone who comes out of the portal, telling everyone to run as she'll buy time. The portal opens, and it's none other than Suho. There's enormous energy surrounding him and the portal. Suho, coming out of the portal, ferociously roars, causing the lady to tremble in fear, unable to move. In a matter of seconds, the portal closes itself again. What's left is Suho lying naked on the ground. The communication goes off, reassuring everyone that it was nothing unusual, just another returnee. The next time Suho opens his eyes, he's in the hospital with a doctor who reported his testimony for the Wakener Bureau. He tells Suho that he is fine and will be discharged in a few days. The doctor then proceeds to leave, but Suho stops him, and when the doctor asks him what's the matter, he replies with a smile and says, "Thank you," because he was the first person he had talked to in 1,000 years. The doctor smiles back, saying that his information would be very helpful. At the returnee control department, we see the same girl who stood up to Suho talking with Ross. They talk about a rare F-rank patient who was none other than Suho, but the girl thinks that there was a mistake. The boss explains that if he were at least an E-rank patient, the government would have provided him with benefits. The girl then wonders how an F-rank managed to go through a portal, and the chief explains that it could be pure luck for him. It's rare, but it does happen. He then shows the report of the doctors who talked to Suho. The report clearly mentions that Suho behaves like a wolf and is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, which is common among F-rank returnees. Doubting herself, the girl decides to deliver this report in person because she wants to confirm something. At the hospital, Suho is lost in thought about how he spent 1,000 years in that strange world and his sudden return to Earth. Even though he's been back for about 2 weeks now, he's still struggling to get it together. He wants to go back to that beautiful wild world with his companions. The nurse comes in and informs him that it's time for lunch. Suho too feels hungry, so decides to think about it later and decides to eat. Suddenly, the girl from the returnee control department enters his room and finds him in a very strange position, eating his food. This girl introduces herself as Choi Soo-young. Suho immediately senses her, identifies her smell, and with the help of her blonde hair remembers that he has seen her somewhere before. She then explains that she's the first person he saw when he returned from the portal. She remembers the predatory look in his eyes when he returned, but this was a completely different person. He doesn't seem as dangerous as before. Suho then asks her what the Returnee Control Department, or the RDC, is for short. She explains that it's an organization that helps returnees just like Suho readjust to society. She then asks him to sign the consent for sharing information, but Suho finds the pen more interesting than the contract itself. After all, it's been 1,000 years. Distracted by the pen, he starts drawing with it, ignoring the contract. Soo-young is annoyed by this behavior even though she knows he's a returnee. She can't stand this behavior. She asks him if there was nothing else he had learned besides drawing, and if there was something he had actually learned there. Suho explains that there was no magic or sorcery in that world. Survival was all about physical strength and intelligence. Choi feels disappointed because she believes Suho did nothing useful for 10 years and was only running for his life. He then tries to correct her. It's not 10 years, but 1,000. She reminds him that he went missing in 2015 and has now returned in 2025. She then hands him his Awakener ID card. This provides personal and important information about him. She also suggests he meet up with his family soon. After hearing about his family, Suho has a new purpose. He can finally meet his family again. Thank you all for stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe.